You know what's weird? When I had $12,000 in my savings account, I felt broke, like genuinely stressed about money every single day. But now, with significantly more than that, I actually feel wealthier, even though my lifestyle hasn't changed all that much. And here's the thing that'll blow your mind. The jump from zero to $50,000 is mathematically, psychologically, and practically harder than going from 50 to 100,000. I know that sounds completely backwards. You're probably thinking, Dexon, that makes no sense. 50,000 is 50,000 either way. But stick with me for the next 15 minutes, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about building wealth. And if you're someone stuck in that brutal first $50,000 phase right now, this might be the most important video you watch this year. My name is Dexon, and I spend way too much time thinking about why some people break through financially while others stay stuck in the same place for decades. If you're someone who feels like you're working your butt off, doing everything right, but your net worth is moving at a snail's pace, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I need to be real with you from the start. What I'm about to explain is going to frustrate you, because once you understand why that first 50,000 is so brutally difficult, you're going to realize that a lot of the financial advice you've been following is actually working against you. But here's the good news. Once you understand the real game being played, you can actually do something about it. So let's start with the math, because this is where it gets really interesting. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime business partner, once said that the first $100,000 is a bitch to get, his exact words. And he wasn't just being dramatic. He was pointing to a mathematical reality that most people never fully grasped. Here's what most people don't realize. Wealth building isn't linear, it's exponential. And that means the game is completely different depending on where you're starting from. Let me show you what I mean with real numbers. Let's say you're starting from zero, and you manage to save $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. At that rate, with no investment returns, it would take you 8.3 years just to hit $50,000. 8 years. That's a long time to stay disciplined, to keep grinding, to not give up. But here's where it gets interesting. Let's say you invest that money instead, earning a conservative 8% annual return, which is below the stock market's historical average of about 10%. With compound interest, you'd hit $50,000 in about 6.5 years. That's still over 6 years of consistent, disciplined saving and investing. Now, here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Once you have that $50,000 working for you, the math completely changes. That $50,000 earning that same 8% return generates $4,000 a year in growth without you doing anything. You're still saving your $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year, but now you're also earning $4,000 from your investments. Your money is making $333 a month while you sleep. So instead of adding $6,000 to your net worth each year, you're adding $10,000. And the next year, your $50,000 has grown to $60,000, which generates $4,800, then $5,600, then $6,400. By the time you're at around $75,000, your investments are generating the same amount of money annually as you're contributing manually. You've essentially doubled your savings rate without working any harder. According to a 2023 study by the Federal Reserve, the median American household has a net worth of about $192,000. But here's what's crazy. The median net worth for households under 35 is only $39,000. And for those same households, it takes an average of 8.7 years to cross the $50,000 threshold. But from $50,000 to $100,000, the average is just 5.2 years. The momentum builds. That's the secret nobody tells you. But look, if this was just about math, everyone would be rich. The real reason that first 50,000 feels impossible isn't the numbers. It's what's happening in your brain. When you're starting from zero or close to it, every financial decision feels like life or death. And here's what most people don't realize. Your brain is literally working against you. There's this concept in behavioral economics called loss aversion. Research by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found that losses feel about twice as painful as gains feel good. So when you have $3,000 in your savings account and your car needs a $1,200 repair, that doesn't just feel like losing $1,200. It feels like you just got punched in the gut twice. You're back down to $1,800 and psychologically, you're starting over. Again. I see this all the time. Someone will finally scrape together $5,000 or $6,000. They'll start feeling like they're making progress and then boom, unexpected medical bill, car breaks down, refrigerator dies, whatever, and they're back to square one. Not literally square one, but it feels that way. And here's the thing that makes it even worse. When you're at this stage, you have no margin for error, zero room for mistakes. If you're living paycheck to paycheck while trying to save, one bad decision, one unexpected expense, one moment of weakness where you swipe that credit card, and you've just undone weeks or months of progress. But when you have $50,000, the psychological game completely changes. A $1,200 car repair is annoying, sure, but it's 2.4% of your net worth. It doesn't feel like starting over. It feels like a speed bump. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Dexon, but that's obvious. Of course, having more money feels better. But stay with me because there's a deeper insight here that most people miss. Here's where I'm going to get a little frustrated because this is something that genuinely makes me angry about how our financial system works. When you're broke, everything costs more. Everything. Let me give you some real examples. According to a 2024 report from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the average overdraft fee in the United States is $26.61. 35% of checking accounts incurred at least one overdraft fee in the past year. And get this, the people paying these fees have a median account balance of under $350. So the people who have the least money are the ones paying the most in fees. How does that make any sense? Or let's talk about credit. If you have a credit score below 650, which according to Experian describes about 30% of Americans, you're paying dramatically higher interest rates on everything. A car loan for someone with excellent credit might be 5.5%. For someone with poor credit, try 14% or higher. On a $25,000 car over 5 years, that's the difference between paying about $2,900 in interest versus $9,800. That's an extra $6,900 you're paying simply because you don't have money yet. It gets worse. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't buy in bulk. You can't take advantage of sales. You can't stock up when prices are low. You're paying the broke tax on groceries, household supplies, everything. According to research from the Urban Institute, lower income households pay an estimated extra $7,000 to $8,000 a year in fees, higher interest rates, and missed discounts compared to middle income households. $8,000 a year. That's money that could be going toward building that first $50,000, but instead it's being extracted from you simply because you don't have enough money yet. This is why I get so frustrated when people say, just save more. It's not that simple when the entire financial system is designed to penalize you for being broke. Here's another thing most people don't realize. When you're trying to build that first $50,000, your income is almost certainly too low to make it happen quickly. Look, I'm going to say something controversial. You can't penny pinch your way to $50,000 on a $35,000 salary. I'm sorry, but the math doesn't work. Let's do the calculation. After taxes, $35,000 becomes roughly $28,000 or about $2,333 per month. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, average expenses for a single person in the US run about $2,500 to $3,000 per month, depending on where you live. And that's bare bones living: rent, utilities, food, transportation, insurance. Even if you're incredibly disciplined and cut your expenses to $2,000 a month, you're saving $333 per month, or $4,000 per year. At that rate, with no investment returns, it takes 12.5 years to reach $50,000. And that's assuming nothing goes wrong for 12 and a half years. No emergencies, no setbacks, perfect execution. But here's what happens once you have that first $50,000. You're in a completely different position to negotiate, to take risks, to invest in yourself. You can quit a job that's going nowhere because you have a cushion. You can invest in education or certifications that increase your earning potential. You can start a side business without worrying that one slow month means you can't pay rent. According to data from Fidelity, people with over $50,000 in investable assets are 3.2 times more likely to switch jobs for higher pay compared to those with under $10,000. Why? Because they can afford to. They have the freedom to wait for the right opportunity instead of taking the first offer out of desperation. The first 50,000 buys you options, and options are worth more than the money itself. Now, here's what most people don't realize about that journey from 50,000 to 100,000. It's not just that the math is easier. It's that you've crossed a psychological threshold where compound interest becomes real in your life, not just theoretical. Let me explain what I mean. When you have $5,000 invested and it grows by 10% in a year, you made $500. That's nice, but it's not life-changing. It doesn't feel like passive income. It feels like a rounding error. But when you have $50,000 invested and it grows by 10%, that's $5,000. That's real money. That's a month and a half of expenses for many people. That's a solid vacation. That's meaningful. And here's where the psychology really shifts. Once your investments are generating several $1,000s a year in growth, you start to feel like an investor. You start checking your accounts not with dread, but with curiosity. You start to believe, really believe, that this whole financial independence thing might actually work for you. A study published in the Journal of Economic Psychology in 2023 found that people's motivation to save and invest increases dramatically once their investment returns exceed $3,000 annually. Below that threshold, people view investing as playing the market. Above it, they view it as building wealth. It's the same activity, but the psychological framing completely changes. And once that switch flips in your brain, everything becomes easier. You're not forcing yourself to save anymore. You're excited to save because you can see it working. All right, so now you understand why that first 50,000 is so brutal and why the second 50 comes faster. But what do you actually do with this information? Here's the thing. Knowing the problem doesn't solve the problem. You need a game plan. So let me give you the exact strategy that I believe gives you the best shot at breaking through. Step 1. Become obsessed with your income. First, you need to accept that on a mediocre income, this takes forever. I'm not saying this to depress you, I'm saying it to light a fire under you. If you're making under $45,000 a year, your number one financial priority, above saving, above investing, above everything, should be increasing your income. That might mean negotiating a raise, switching jobs, learning a high-income skill, starting a side hustle, whatever. But you need to get religious about this. According to salary data from Glassdoor, people who switch jobs every 2 to 3 years earn 30 to 50% more over their careers, compared to those who stay at the same company. 30 to 50%. That's the difference between taking 8 years to hit 50,000 and taking 4 or 5. Step 2, weaponize every dollar. Once you're earning more, every single dollar you save needs to be working for you immediately, not sitting in a savings account earning 0.5% interest. In the market, earning real returns. Open a Roth IRA or a brokerage account. Invest in low-cost index funds. I like the S&P 500 or total stock market index funds. Set up automatic investments so you're not relying on willpower every month. Here's a realistic example. If you can save $800 a month and invest it at 8% return, you'll hit $50,000 in about 4.5 years. And here's what's crazy. That same $800 per month will get you from $50,000 to $100,000 in just 3.5 years because of compound growth. Step 3, eliminate the financial emergencies. Look, I know everyone says build an emergency fund first, but here's the nuanced truth. If you're barely scraping by, building a 6-month emergency fund before you start investing is terrible advice. It'll take you years and you'll miss out on compound growth. Instead, aim for a $2,000 emergency fund to cover most common unexpected expenses, then start investing aggressively. Once your investments hit around $15,000 to $20,000, circle back and boost your emergency fund to 3 months of expenses. You can always pull money out of your brokerage account if something catastrophic happens, though you obviously want to avoid that. Step 4, protect your psychology. The mental game is everything. You need to track your net worth monthly and celebrate every milestone. Hit $10,000? Celebrate. Hit $25,000? Celebrate. These victories are what keep you going during the brutal early years. And here's something that really matters. Surround yourself with people who are on the same journey. According to research from Ohio State University, people who regularly discuss financial goals with friends or family are 50% more likely to achieve those goals. Find your people. Online communities, Reddit forums, local meetups, whatever. Just don't do this alone. Step 5. Embrace the suck. Here's what nobody wants to tell you. Years 2 through 5 of wealth building suck. You're past the initial motivation. You're not seeing massive results yet, and you're starting to wonder if this is even worth it. This is where most people quit. They've been saving for 3 years. They've got $22,000 in their account, and they think, this is taking forever. I'm just going to buy that new car, take that expensive vacation, or give up. Don't be that person. The people who push through this phase are the ones who win, because on the other side of year 5, year 6, year 7, the money starts moving fast, really fast. Section 7, the bigger picture. Here's what I want you to understand. That first $50,000 isn't just about the money. It's about proving to yourself that you can do hard things, that you're not a victim of your circumstances, that you have more control over your financial future than you thought. And once you have it, once you cross that threshold, you're a different person. You walk into job interviews differently. You make career decisions differently. You think about money differently. I've watched friends make this transition, and it's incredible. Someone who was stressed about money every single day suddenly becomes calm, confident, focused on the long game instead of surviving week to week. According to a longitudinal study from the University of Cambridge, people who build their net worth from $0 to $50,000 report a 37% increase in overall life satisfaction and a 42% reduction in financial anxiety. But here's what's crazy. The jump from $50,000 to $100,000 only increases life satisfaction by an additional 8%. Why? Because the biggest psychological shift happens in that first phase. You go from feeling broke to feeling secure. That's the game changer. Closing. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say this is easy. Building that first $50,000 is one of the hardest things you'll ever do financially. It requires discipline, sacrifice, and a level of delayed gratification that most people simply aren't willing to endure. But here's the truth. It's worth it. It's so worth it. Because once you cross that line, everything changes. The math changes. The psychology changes. Your options change. You stop feeling like you're drowning and start feeling like you're building something real. And the second $50,000 comes faster. And the third, even faster. That's the beauty of compound interest and momentum. The hardest part is starting. The hardest part is pushing through when you can't barely see progress. But if you can do that, if you can stay disciplined for those brutal first 5 or 6 years, you'll look back a decade from now with a net worth that seemed impossible today. And you'll think, holy crap, I actually did it. So here's my challenge to you. Decide right now that you're going to be the person who breaks through, not the person who gives up in year 3, not the person who makes excuses, the person who does the work, trusts the process, and builds real wealth. You've got this. Now go make it happen. If this video helped you understand why that first $50,000 feels so impossible, and more importantly, how to actually get there, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're at in your wealth building journey. Are you grinding through that first $50,000, or have you crossed that threshold and you're working on the next milestone? I read every single comment and I want to hear your story. All right, I'll see you in the next one.